The nervous system and the immune system have to be able to identify self versus not self. That's one of its primary jobs. And in that not self category, it has to recognize things that are dangerous for you as a living entity, as a human being, and things that are okay, that are either inert or things that are possibly good for you. So what's happening is we're getting a misappropriation, if you will, of the things that are good for you. They get dumped into this dangerous for you, and then your immune system does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is have a reaction. Now, this happens because of a survival characteristic. If we were to date things back about 10,000 years, and we were all out walking around, having a nice day, it was a nice spring day like today, and we're hunting and gathering and doing the things that human beings did 10,000 years ago. So if we're all out, it's a nice spring day, everybody's having a good time, and we stop by a pond to get some water, back when you could actually drink out of a pond, which nobody would do in their right mind today. It's a safe environment for the most part, at least we think there is. Maybe there's a little rabbit over there, there's a little deer over there, there's some trees around us, there's pollen going on just like there is today. And we hear a rustling in the bush, but none of us have ever heard rustling like that quite before. And all of a sudden this guy jumps out, this tiger. He jumps out, and all of a sudden one out of two things is going to happen. We get into what we consider a stress response. Would you agree that that would be a stressful situation if you're drinking and all of a sudden a tiger jumps out at you? This becomes a life and death situation. And with this life and death situation, what occurs is the nervous system, the subconscious mind, it's the limbic system, the amygdala and the hippocampus. You don't need to remember the technical terms. The limbic system takes a snapshot. And in this snapshot, what happens is it remembers the rustling of the tiger, it remembers what the tiger looked like, but it also could put anything else that happened to be in our environment into that snapshot. So what's in that snapshot? Possibly dander from the bunny, possibly dander from the deer, maybe pollen from the tree, and it labels this snapshot as dangerous. Now the only danger in there was the tiger. Possibly even something that you ate or drank recently could get put in that snapshot. So what happens is now the subconscious mind says that these things in this little box are dangerous for us. And if it happens to be a chemical, well, the way that our body does that is a 100% perfect immune response, is it's going to fight those things that are in that snapshot. So at a point of stress, what occurs is the body can mislabel things in our environment as dangerous. Now, let's fast forward to 2010. Would you agree that we live in a stressful environment? And that almost anything can happen. I mean, you think about it, our daily activities, we are probably the most stressed society that's ever existed on this planet. You know, fortunately, we're not at war, at least living here in the United States. I know there's a lot going on around the world. But we have to deal with bills and family and money, and it's such a fast-paced society. There's a lot of emotional stresses. We have accidents and traumas, those are physical stresses, and there are indeed chemical things that can stress our body. So any of those things potentially could put something into that incorrect category because it got stuck in the snapshot with something that was indeed dangerous. Now this happens because of what goes on in both the brain, the nervous system, which controls every muscle, bone, joint, and skin, as well as all the vital organs of the body, as well as the immune system. These two systems work very integratedly. There's a tremendous amount of integration between the brain and the nervous system. So what are the types of allergies? What are the things that could get stuck in the snapshot? It could be something that you inhaled. This could be a pollen. It could be from flowers, perfumes, dust, or paint. It could definitely be something that you've ingested, food, drinks, vitamins, drugs, or food additives. It could be something you've come in contact with, and we're finding that this is becoming more and more common. It could possibly be a fabric that somebody had touched. It could be a chemical that you came in contact with. It could be cosmetics that you're putting on your body, or even furniture, you name it. Injectants, these are things that have been injected into the body. Insect bites, stings, injected drugs, vaccines. Infectants, things that have actually created an infection for us, like bacteria or virus, contact with an infected person. One of the things that I had no idea until I started studying this was the physical agents. And I like to tell a story of a gentleman that came into my office, and every time the weather changed, and he lived here in North Texas, by the way, every time the weather changed, he would feel miserable. He had horrible headaches, he had all sorts of other problems happen. and it would literally incapacitate him. We went through a lot of the treatments, and he wasn't really getting a whole lot better. So I called one of my mentors, and that's the one nice advantage is I'll tell you right up front, I don't know everything. But if I don't know something, I'm going to do my darndest to find it out. Actually, there's a phone call I'm missing tonight, but that's okay, because I'm here. But the group of doctors that offer this treatment around the United States, and there's only about 200 of us, about every other week, there's a call that we can get on, and we can ask questions, and I actually have the people that founded this information, they're auto-dial in my cell phone, so I call Dr. Douglas somewhat regularly. He's up in Florida. But anyways, it's called geopathic stress. In other words, just our environment is possibly something that could be, that we could become allergic to. So that could be heat or cold or humidity or dampness or fogness. When we did a scan of geopathic stress for this gentleman, we treated what we found, and all of a sudden he's doing better. And now he calls us about every other time the weather changes and says, I'm still doing good. And we get a lot of people that do that. You know, they just call us to say, hey, we're still doing well. Genetic factors. You can actually have things that were brought down from your family. Doesn't have to be, but there are things that could literally be brought to you from stuff that was passed on through your genes. Molds, mildews, fungus, molds and yeasts. This is a big problem, and as a matter of fact, it's something we pretty much treat with everybody, especially because we have such a perfect breeding ground of the wonderful humidity and heat that we have here. It's almost perfect, and about this time of year, almost all of our houses are hitting about 40% humidity inside our homes right now, which is breeding grounds for especially things like dust mites and things along that lines. Over the winter, our houses get really dry. Fortunately, we kill off a lot of those things. So what a lot of people consider seasonal allergies, maybe a mold and yeast or mold and mildew or mold and dust mite reaction, because those seasonal allergies usually hit right about the time the dust mites start multiplying in droves in our homes. Emotional factors, painful experiences or memories, and we've seen this happen where somebody simply remembered something and it brought into an allergic reaction, or they had an experience. Now, allergies have increased dramatically in the last 20 to 30 years. Before 30 or so years ago, allergies weren't as big of a problem. I'm sure there were people that had them, but they weren't as big of a problem. And a lot of this has to do with what's going on in our society today. Number one, we have less exposure to parasitic diseases. We've done a lot of things through medical advancements that have made our lives mostly better, sometimes for short term, with a long-term detriment, if you will. So we've done a lot of things to help stop people from being sick. But the problem is our immune system works a lot like a muscle, and if you never get sick, especially as a child, there's a good chance your immune system doesn't really know how to balance itself. Now, there's a lowered rate of breastfeeding. The good news is I'm finding out that this is reversing. But for those people that were born, late 60s to about mid-80s or so, there were parents that were literally told that their breast milk was dangerous for their kids. And we're finding that to be about the worst thing that could have ever happened, simply because it's one of the best things to help build our immune system. The great news is almost all current moms, new moms, are being told to breastfeed at least 6 to 8 months, if not up to a year and a half or so, which I think is a really fortunate thing. It's one of the best things that we can